The last data structure that we're going to look at is the list. And the list is kind of junk storage. I would say I don't really like lists, I have to admit, but I still have to use them sometimes, and that is mostly because R provides the results from a lot of statistical tests in the shape of lists, and then you really have to be able to dismantle them and to get the data out of the list. Otherwise, I try to use lists as little as possible. The good thing about lists is that they allow mixing of various types of objects inside them. They are kind of like the data frame. In the data frame you can store different data modes in different columns, but you still have to have one-dimensional columns, and all the columns have to be of the same length. That is, you have a specific number of rows in the data frame. But in a list you can store almost anything and mix objects of different sizes and types. But the difficult part is to get them out of there by subscripting. In this example, I'll create a list with two objects, and first of all I create the objects. Object A, which is a character mode vector containing the letters S and T, and then we have a vector B containing the numbers 5, 6, 7, so it's of length 3. And then I combine these into a list called X, and I create X by writing X equals list, the command list, and then I give the contents A, comma B in this case. And if we look at X, we get this first bracket, bracket, 1, bracket, bracket, telling us that this is the first element of the list, and then comes the element ST, and this bracket 1 bracket here, that's the ordinary 1 that is returned in front of each object always when a vector or whatever. And then we get the bracket bracket 2 bracket bracket telling us that here comes element 2, and this element is a vector containing 5, 6, and 7. Now if I want to extract only the first element from the list X, then I write X bracket 1 bracket, and then I get only the first element in return. A bit more complicated situation is when I'm trying to subscript into an element within a list. In this case, I want to go into the first element in X and then extract the second element of this element, which is a vector. Then I have to write X bracket bracket 1 bracket bracket, telling R that I'm interested in the first element of X, and then bracket 2 bracket, because I'm interested only in the second element of this element, which is a vector. And in return I get T, because T was the second element in the vector A. To make things a bit easier, I can assign names to the elements of a list. And I do this exactly like in a data frame. So I write X equals list, and then I get the name let equals A, this is the contents and this is the name, comma num equals B. So I get two elements, let and num. And if I look at X, I get $let and then the contents, and then $num and the contents. And when I have these names, if I want to, for example, get number, the third number out of num, then I can write X $num and then bracket 3 bracket, because I'm interested only in the third element of X $num, and then I get a 7 in return. Of course, it gets even more complicated if you start storing matrices or lists inside a list.